Thank you so much for doing this today. I'm really excited for this film. Before we actually get into that, I actually want to go back a bit to the first Mission Impossible movie you did. You actually stepped into the
Hmm.
role after Nicholas Hoult dropped out due to scheduling. And as someone who was a fan of the original Mission Impossible, as you mentioned, what was it like stepping into this franchise for you? Did it like almost feel surreal?
Absolutely surreal. I was in Puerto Rico. We were shut down, and we didn't know when we'd start again. And assuming we would, I had about 8 more days left of shooting on another really sweet indie film. And then I get a call that says, "How soon can you get on the plane to London?" I'm like, "Why?" Well, Mission Impossible's interested, expressed interest. And I'm like, "Are they bringing that series back, or is this like the movie?" And they go, "No, it's the movie." I said, "With Tom?" They go, "Yeah." I'm like, let me see. Like, let's figure this out. I got to finish this movie. So it was like, what? Normally in these things, you hear about them. You hopefully mount a campaign with your management, and you have people like put in the good word. You do whatever you have to do to let them know you can deliver. And in this case, it's like, can you do a Zoom call with the director and or Tom? Tom couldn't make the Zoom call, but Macquarie and I had about a 2 hour Zoom call that I was in the supermarket, trying to find provisions. And a friend of mine got me in a little office upstairs in the supermarket. Then they were going to close, but our conversation kept going because I don't know if you know anything about Christopher McQuarrie. Is probably one of the best conversationalists in the world. A very interesting man and great stories. And he was explaining to me, what they had in mind, and if I, how was I with physical fitness and whatnot. And I'm like, yeah, yeah, we're good, So yeah, it was, I'm still kind of pinching myself. I mean, it's over in the sense that my responsibilities are done, but it's just beginning because every day I keep getting more really beautiful feedback from people who've seen the film or who are dying to see it. And you know, fingers crossed that the public will embrace it as they should.
Absolutely, yeah. And your character as well has left a long lasting impression on people. Gabriel, he's haunting, he's calm, he's calculated. And one thing I really love, and I love when actors do this, they say a lot with just their eyes. As we know, even from the previous film, Gabriel is this mysterious character, but he has so much emotion and like there's so much to say with just his eyes. Since this is the final film in the franchise, how did you go about crafting a villain that truly leaves a lasting impression?
Well, that's that's an interesting question because I think we craft it as we go along. I don't think that I come to any of my roles with a predetermined, finished product in mind. I have an idea, and then you have to leave yourself open for inspiration on the day. What your fellow actors, what the directors, what the sun or the moon or the clouds or the lighting, everything can affect you if you allow it. You have to be conscious, aware, but not so plotted that everything and so self-conscious. You have to allow for the unexpected, and I think that helps with small gestures. I don't know if you understand. Like, the style of this movie is very controlled. It's a lot of performances are very laser like, and then some characters are more flowy. So there's a symphony of kind of biorhythm between the actors. And in certain cases, it's so controlled that a little goes a long way. So if you leave yourself open for the unexpected, the unknown, or something to just the wind blows something, and next thing you know, you see something. Those those guys and gals they'll capture it and they'll use it, especially if it's interesting, if it doesn't tell too much or too little. It's a fine balance. You can't get ahead of your audience too much, but they can't get ahead of you. If they get ahead of you, man, we lost them. They're like, yeah, we know where this is going. Every movie is kind of the same at the end, right? Your hero wins, but the difference is how they get there and what happens to you in the process. and what happens to the audience in the process. And what I think is really beautiful about this film is it touches upon some major themes, commitment to each other, not allowing outside forces to break those bonds, not allowing us to fight each other. I mean, I could say that there's a lot of analogies, but everyone will take away from this what they will. That's why art, you know, not that this is some, I'm not trying to say it's like, some high-headed art, but it's art in the sense that everyone takes away their own perspective. Different people have different reactions. You add something of your own soul, something that is not easy to, how should I say, reproduce, with, you know, the advent of AI right now is threatening all of our jobs, you know,
Hmm.
and that's a problem unless it's used well. I think that's part of the message of the movie without giving it away. In whose hands this power falls can determine the fate of our existence.
Yeah, well, actually, it's actually funny you bring up AI. That was actually one of my questions, right? A quote that you said in a previous article, you said AI is like fire. It can burn or it can warm. And you obviously mentioned that, if used wisely, it can obviously be helpful. But do you think in general and in the long run, it's going to help us or it's going to hurt us creatively as artists?
Well, that's the thing, you know. I mean, we we're not supposed to get too into the weeds on AI because it could be polarizing. There are people who think it is the future, no matter what. Or there are people who think it's the end of us.
Hmm.
Even Musk talked about the dangers of uncontrolled. I will tell you, it's somewhat like this. My analogy: if you raise a child, that child eventually would become smarter than you, and that child, especially teenagers, think they've got you pretty much figured out. And sometimes you'll embarrass it and they'll want to literally, like, they'll want to hide you. And I hope that we raise our AI and imbue it with enough, with, program it with whatever seems like love. I don't know how you can program love and care, but you can program the opposite. It can destroy. So I think the underlying code should be to maintain and to evolve its own creators, to help evolve, to get us closer to that which it cannot replace, which is, I believe, our souls.
I love how you bring up things about like how things evolve and everything. Like going back to these Mission Impossible movies, as they evolved, they've gotten better and better in terms of the story, the action, and just everything in general about it. What do you think is the secret sauce that keeps this franchise getting better and better within each chapter?
Well, the human element, the fact that, our fearless leader, Mr. Cruz, is a machine of sorts. He's his own. I've never seen anyone so powerfully willful, really sets his mind on something and gets it done, come hell or high water. And his partner in crime, cinematic, um, the dynamic duo, Chris McQuarrie he's an amazing storyteller, and they're both film or cinephiles, as they say. They love the medium, they love the art, they love the magic that and the joy that making films engenders in its audiences. They truly um, are passionate about entertaining their audiences, and that's really what it's all about. You can make all the political or philosophical statements in the world, and if it doesn't deliver some sort of thrill for the audience, it's a snoozer. You know what I mean? It's not worth the time that people. I mean, time today is very valuable, and it's one of the themes in the movie: timing.
Yeah.
you know what you do with a few hours of your life should be rewarding, and at least should make you feel like you've gone somewhere, you've traveled, you've your soul, your spirit, you should feel like, wow, I went through something, maybe I learned something, but more importantly, I was entertained. I was, you know it was a well spent investment of my time.
Yeah, and that's what I really love about like Tom and the team, yourself. You guys are really like pushing the envelope and really, again, because it's like you mentioned. Actually, trust me, a lot of films these days that I've been watching, they're great, but there's some that like they don't. You walk out feeling unsatisfied, and as an audience.
Maybe they're formulaic, maybe. I don't know. I mean,
I don't know. Yeah, I don't. It's hard to say. Like, because I'm a big fan of like 80s movies, 90s movies, and I always talk about this in other interviews too. I always go, movies back then, even though I wasn't around in that time, but just growing up with them, they had this magic to them. And I feel like a lot of movies
mhm.
nowadays don't have that. But these movies, even like when Tom Cruise did Top Gun Maverick, everyone at first was like, "Oh, they're gonna bring back Top Gun. It's not gonna be the same as the original." In my opinion, it was better than the original. Like he
Yeah.
literally like surpassed it. That's why, and like at his age too, he's pulling off some of the craziest stuff. Like even his stunts, like they get more insane each time. You think, okay, how can he get? He can't do anything crazier. And just when you think that, he
He'll
does it.
find a way.
He'll
He'll
find a
find a
way.
way. Well, that's
Yeah.
the thing. To answer your question before, which I don't know if I really did, how do they get better and better? I think as human beings, you get better and better, right? As people, as filmmakers. So you always look for something that is, something that scares and like thrills your audience. And since he's a bit of a daredevil himself, and this is what he does. I asked him one point, "What do you do for vacation?" He goes, "This is my vacation." So it's like, okay. The thing is that you couldn't do what they have done, Tom and the wonderful people that come together to create this joy, thrill ride for the audiences. They couldn't have been doing this for 3 decades unless they did it well and safely. I mean, the fact that he's still alive is a testament that he knows what's going.
Oh,
It's not crazy. It's our job to make it look crazier than it is, because that's what movies are. They're the ultimate illusion. There's a great quote that I think of. It's kind of heady. I hope it doesn't, you know, seem too indulgent, but check this out.
mm.
It says the high mission of any art is by its illusions to foreshadow a higher universe reality, to crystallize the emotions of time into the thought of eternity. Chew on that for a while. And I think that's what great movies do.
Even at his age, doing all these stunts, like what are your thoughts? How he can pull this off physically? I mean, because obviously, even in this movie as well, and
What
the other one,
age?
you do
What age? What age? We're 26 backwards. That's all. you know,
It's so crazy.
I mean, honestly, I feel amazing. Like, I play tennis, he does what he does. I mean, if you stay active and you stay nourished and you keep your mind, body, and soul in some modicum of alignment, age is relative. What was old 20, 30, 40 years ago is just getting started today. They say 30 is the new this or 50 is the new 30. I got to tell you, I feel so comfortable in my own skin. My only issue is that everybody else is like obsessed with youth. And I'm going, hang on a minute, each one of these I earned and I'm proud of them.
Yeah, my dad always says the thing is he's like, it's a blessing it's a blessing to grow old. Some people some people always complain about getting old. That's life's biggest blessing is to grow old and to live. Isn't that what it's all about?
Yeah. To, Here's the thing, to grow wise is, I think, even better. You can grow old and not know anything and be stuck in that same loop. Why does this keep happening to me? Why is everybody else doing better than me? Why do I not change? Why? And if you keep acknowledging that things that don't work, you're just giving them more power. So I believe through quality entertainment, maybe you can be led to some other way of thinking. That's why they crystallize the emotions of time into the thought of eternity. Meaning, what is it going to take to grow, to get to the next level? And I just love it. I love that Tom and McHugh, these are guys that have hair like me, but nothing's stopping them. They're doing better work than they did when they didn't have those. It's like I really believe you know, the notion of old is being redefined every day by people who are not allowing themselves to be boxed in by a category or by a label.
Yeah, for sure. And one thing I was actually reading about recently, and this goes back to about the stunt work and everything, the Academy actually added a category for best stunt design. What are your whole thoughts on that recognition and
Absolutely.
what goes into planning a stunt sequence in a film like this, like from safety to execution? Because obviously
God.
people don't really realize a lot that goes into it.
You know, as a member of the Academy, I'm going to say it is long overdue.
Hmm.
Stunt people are some of the most rugged, daring, trained, um, incredible performers out there that protect us, the character actors, the main actors. They make it possible so that we can be safe. They take the hits. They take, a massive amount of abuse throughout their lives, physical. I mean, I know people that are in their 50s and their bodies are racked, from whether it's horses, whether it's fights, falls. There's any number of things that can go wrong, and unfortunately, tragically, do go wrong. And stunt folks put their lives on the line that they haven't had a category acknowledging their sacrifice and their efforts and their genius is surprising to me. But I'm very grateful that the Academy has seen fit to do so. And what does it take? It takes an awful lot of preparation. It takes a lot of ingenuity. It takes a lot of calm. You got to stay calm. You can't get emotional. All of a sudden your brain doesn't work the same way. You can cause a problem for yourself and for others. It takes riggers, people who rig the stunts and design it. I mean, it's fascinating. From the great Buster Keaton on down, so many, even Charlie Chaplin. I mean, everybody had their style of the illusion. It's really the great illusion. Stunts are illusions that kind of like wrestling, the whole show of wrestling, people say it's fake. Yeah, but those wrestlers get bruised and bloody and battered.
Yep.
It's fake to some degree because obviously we can't have people really falling out of planes and dying,
Yeah.
but it's as painful. I have pictures of bruises on my arms from in a certain sequence. I don't want to give away, but I mean just purple,
Yeah.
you're all day you're doing things, you're tumbling, you're hanging, you have a harness, it pulls on your groin, your whole body weight is hanging. I mean, there's so many things that as an actor I do a fraction of, and stunt people, that's their lives. They do it all day when necessary. So I always give it up to Wade Eastwood and the great team that he's assembled. you know um, Tom really makes sure he gets the best people around him, and it's money well spent.
Yeah. And I hope people when they watch this interview they can get a glimpse of that, right? Like about what goes into this stuff and appreciate it more. And when they go into the theaters and watch this movie, there's that level of appreciation. Like, oh my God, see, like, look all these action sequences. Look what had to go into that. And Tom Cruise, and I'm sure yourself, he's been a big advocate for movie theaters. What are your whole thoughts on the importance of the theatrical experience today?
Yeah, it's no secret. I've said already that there's something unifying to a society when we can all get together, as many people as you can fit in a theater, in a hall, in a grand salon, and turn the lights out and suspend your disbelief for X amount of time. And it's different than having a device where you can get a call, a text, you can pause, you can go to the bathroom, you can do, cook some popcorn, and you come back and then you finish watching it. It's something else when you have to stay, when you have to pay attention, you're going to miss out. Even going to the restroom in a theater is like, it's risky. What did I miss? What did I miss? So you really want to make sure you can enjoy a theatrical experience, because I believe that there's something un intangible about when a group of us human beings get together and share emotional experiences, laugh or see when others laugh. Every audience is kind of different. We screen this in in at Cannes, and they reacted differently to things that they did in London. Then we came to New York, and it seemed subdued as compared. Then at the end, it was like, oh my God. It's like every audience reacts differently, and they kind of take their cues from each other. So watching a film with other folks can be a very unifying experience, I think. And it should never be something that we lose, that we get comfortable with. Go see it, and go see it on a big screen. Immerse yourself. If the movie is good, it will be worthwhile. It will be like traveling without having to leave the country.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. No, I go to the movies with my fiance like literally once a week. Right? We actually just saw Final Destination Bloodlines a couple days ago, and like we love going
Yeah.
there because it's exactly what you say. You get immersed, like you're around people, you get the reactions. It's like it's almost like, as weird as it sounds, you're going through the same experience as the actors in the movie, like the characters. You know, it's like you're there, you're going through the ride, and after it's done, you snap back into reality. You go, oh my God, wait, that was a show. Like, yeah, as weird as that sounds, but I get exactly what you mean. I think more people should start
It's a
going because,
shared
yeah,
experience. And, buddy, we all have mirror neurons. We all feel, I mean, hopefully, you could tell if someone's a psychopath if you yawn and they don't, because most of these types of like involuntary things, and then it triggers your own. And if you don't have that, maybe you're not so connected to your fellow human beings, but that's why movies are special. And then here's another fact, okay? It takes money, it takes investment to make a theater, create a screen, to pay for the projectionist, to pay for the real estate, to, maintain it, to clean it, to have staff. Don't let that go. Make it your business to support an art that, is a 20th century art form that should not stay only in the 20th century because of supposed convenience. There's something magical about human beings sitting in front of a big screen, whether it's with one other person or even alone in a theater. There's just something, it's almost like it's a different kind of church in a weird way, you know, not to denigrate or compare what we do to, religion, but some people are religious about their movies. Do you know what I mean? Like they just adore the images. And I think the more we care about what is on that screen, the more people will take care to make it good, make it worth your while. And if you don't care, then you get, crappy product. And it saddens me to see how easily the younger generations are fed stuff. It's like food, if you grow up with junk food, you're not going to teach your own kids how to eat healthy. So I think we should have a movement of healthy viewing, product movies that fill your heart, your soul, even if they're just entertainment. There's some entertainment that leads you to positivity, and some entertainment that's kind of like, where vengeance is the only answer. I'm kind of tired of that. I'm kind of tired of like kill. I'm tired of them killing the bad guy.
I love comedies, right? And like I know, for example, Tom Cruise, he did Tropic Thunder a long time ago. Now that he's done this franchise, I want to see Tom Cruise do more comedy. I don't know about you and everybody else, but like he was
I
amazing in
think
Tropic
you
Thunder.
will. I think you will. Yeah, I think he's fun and funny, and also he played the rock star. He's multifaceted, and I don't think Tom will have any problem getting out his will. If he wants to do it, he will. And I think comedy, it's a challenge. It's not easy for dramatic actors to just go into comedy, just like it's not that easy for comedic actors to just be taken seriously. It's a shift. It's a shift in tone. But, you know, that's what challenges are for. And I think Tom loves his challenges. So I'm sure if the right script comes along, if the right collaborators come along, I think he'd take another chance at that.
And my last thing I want to bring up for you, Isai, is you're actually co-hosting the Memorial Day concert at the National Mall in Washington with Gary Sinise.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, sir.
Anything you could share about that?
Well, I got the call recently. Joe Mantegna has been a friend of mine for many years, and he stepped up for me when I was, when I needed a favor, and I told him, I said, whatever you need. He said that he had some scheduling conflicts and work things that he's got to do back. By the way, the 19th, I think this is the 19th season. They've renewed his show Criminal Minds, which is
Yeah, I
amazing.
actually I had him on my podcast actually. He's a wonderful guy, Joe Montana.
Oh,
Mention,
he's
yeah, tell him I say
he
hi if whenever you talk to him again. He's quite
absolutely
personable. Yeah.
he's a gentle soul and a really good human being. And he said, "Hey, it's a last minute thing, but would you consider?" And I said, "Well, let me see if I can switch my weekend plans. I was hoping to see some friends and family, but they understand." And I said, "It's an honor, absolutely." You know, I love those shows. I've done them a couple of times as a performer. To read the accounts of the heroes and those who lived and those who didn't. And it's very moving and it's amazing. And PBS and our government, collaborate to bring this to the nation. And I think right now it's a nonpartisan, it's a unifying event. We need that. We need to feel good about our nation and how special our nation is. And that our freedoms were hard fought, and I just I have family members that passed away and that served, and it's a personal kind of honor for me to do anything I can to honor the memory and the sacrifice of those who have fallen and who have been injured, and let them know they're not forgotten and that we owe a lot to them.
Yeah, no, it's really special you're doing that, and honestly, everything you're doing is fantastic, and I'm wishing always the best of success going forward. And thank you so much for doing this interview today. I had a wonderful time, and hope to do it again soon and to stay in touch. I have you on Instagram. I'll be posting everything, and thank you so much, Isai. Honestly,
Well,
pleasure.
thank you. Be blessed. Take
Thanks
care.
so much. Take care, man. Bye bye.